Melissa Louise Salazar was found dead 12 miles outside of Santa Fe near the Valencia exit on January 23, 1993. Her body and the area in which she was found didn't give police many clues. The medical examiner was unable to determine her precise cause of death, and not much evidence was available to police. Although they've only ever had one suspect in mind, no one has ever been arrested for murdering her. So, if this isn't your thing, thank you very much for your support, but please click off of this video now. But if you're with me, let's see if we can figure out who murdered Melissa Louise Salazar. On Wednesday, January 13th, 1993, Jose Guadalupe Salazar saw his daughter for the last time when he stopped by her Espanola home to pick up his 5-year-old grandson Jeremy. Home from her workday as the secretary for the Los Alamos Fire Department, she was preparing for her ex, Jeremy's father Jerry, to come by. They had been embroiled in lengthy child support as well as custody battles, and they were supposed to discuss custody at this meeting. According to Jerry, the custody agreement was joint, but he felt he hadn't been able to see Jeremy enough. So Jose said goodbye to Melissa, and as he headed away from her home, he saw her ex Jerry pulling up the street as expected. However, Jerry later informed police that he did not visit her home that night and had not seen her at all. Melissa and Jerry had a tumultuous relationship. Court appearances for child support and custody of Jeremy had begun 2 years prior in 1991, and fighting hadn't slowed down. Judges claimed that Melissa recounted on at least one occasion that Jerry was violent with her. Jerry did admit to beating her once, but only because she had allegedly stabbed him. It's also known that other violent confrontations had taken place between the two of them. According to evidence found during the search of her home, police found a note Melissa had written to Jose letting him know she had left somewhere with Jerry, saying, "I hope nothing will happen." Apparently, Melissa didn't have a good feeling. Police also found a tape recorder which Melissa had borrowed from a family member. She had planned to use it to secretly record the conversation with Jerry. The next morning, the morning of January 14th, Jose, who was an Espanola school bus driver, noticed Melissa's car outside her home at around 7 a.m. He found this particularly strange, as she had told him the night before she needed to be at work before dawn. He pulled into her driveway and honked, hoping that if she had overslept, his honking would wake her. He checked again during his bus route closer to noontime, and her car was still in the same spot. So later in the afternoon, he went home, got her house key, and went to investigate. He found nothing out of the ordinary other than the fact that the living room light was left on and the heat was turned very high. Melissa was, of course, confirmed to have missed work that Thursday. On Friday, Jose received a phone call from a man saying he'd found Melissa's purse in Santa Fe in the dumpster behind a nightclub. The hotspot, called Rodeo Nights, was kind of notorious in Santa Fe for drunken violence. If someone got assaulted, robbed, or even murdered, it always seemed to happen at Rodeo Nights. Regarding this find, Jose said, "I don't think she dropped her purse there. I think someone planted the purse to make us think she'd been there." In the same article, which was published Saturday, January 16th, Jose also said, "My gut feeling is that it's foul play, but I'm hoping for the best." Along with Melissa's 4 sisters and 7 brothers, over 100 community members searched the Espanola area in their off-road vehicles, on horses, and with dogs for Melissa. Since Espanola is a small, tight-knit city, Melissa's family was sure someone must have seen something. They knew she hadn't run away, but didn't know where she could possibly be. so all they could do was wait. 10 days after she had gone missing, on January 23rd, just 1 week before her 23rd birthday, Melissa's body was found by a Colorado couple on the side of the highway. Just off I-25 near the Valencia 297 exit, Melissa's body was found partially covered in ice and snow. On her body were several small cuts and a few small bruises. Police seem to believe that Melissa could have been wearing 3 rings at the time of her death, those of which have never been recovered. She was wearing all black except for her jacket, which also had blue and red stripes on it. Although she had not been sexually assaulted, Melissa's bra was torn. Police do not believe the scene at which she was found was where she was murdered. The medical examiner did not find an obvious cause of death and ruled she had died of an unidentifiable form of asphyxia. Someone had suffocated her and dumped her in the snow. Finally, the last interesting piece from her autopsy came in the form of toluene. Toluene is a gas with an aroma most would associate with paint thinner, and it is used as a solvent in a number of household and industrial products. It can enter the body through inhalation, and exposure to high airborne concentrations can cause neurological impairment similar to intoxication. People should wear respirators around this chemical if the chemical is being stored indoors, and skin contact should be carefully avoided. Low concentrations of toluene were found in Melissa's blood, brain, liver, and kidneys. At the time, Jerry was the supervisor for a warehouse that belonged to the State Highway Department, now known as the Department of Transportation. That warehouse happened to store 55-gallon drums of the chemical, which is used to thin the highway striping paint. My research tells me that Melissa most likely inhaled quite a heavy concentration of the gas around the time of her death. Toluene does not stay in one's system for longer than a day, and unless one abuses inhalants, it wouldn't be found in the system. Since the toluene was not found in her skin, I do not believe she touched anything contaminated with toluene. Rather, when one breathes in toluene, it is absorbed immediately into the blood through the lungs. So, unless Melissa was an avid and chronic huffer of paint thinner, I don't really see it plausible that she regularly encountered enough of the chemical for it to be present throughout her body. Furthermore, a single instance of inhaling this chemical at a large enough concentration can indeed cause death. Jerry claims the only place he went that night of January 13th was to Chimayol to buy beer. The attendant at the store, however, says Jerry never went inside the store that evening, although he had seen his vehicle parked outside for about 15 minutes. Jerry's wife claims he was gone for over 2 hours that night. However, despite all this, police never charged him. They said there was never enough evidence at all to arrest anyone. Police are convinced people know who killed Melissa, but are afraid of the murderer, keeping them quiet. While remaining open, the case has been inactive for some time. In 2001, the FBI was reviewing the case and the evidence again, and had tested something they found on Melissa with new DNA technology. But still, nothing. Although Melissa's family held memorial masses at their church for her for several years afterward, she's become forgotten by everyone else. Her parents always held out hope that her killer would be found. Her father passed away in 2007, never learning who was responsible for his daughter's murder. Any stories that the papers released after 1996 referred to her as the old murder case. I even struggled to find information on her because there is so little. But Melissa, your community has not forgotten.